6 months ago, Congress passed historic tax legislation, fundamentally reforming our tax code and providing tax cuts to middle-income Americans and also to small business job creators. At the time, many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle attempted to derail our efforts through a campaign of misinformation and demagoguery. They tried to argue that up was down and that tax cuts were tax increases, and even suggested the bill's passage was a sign of Armageddon. Of course, such fear-mongering was always nonsense. At the time, analysts from the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation made it clear that the vast majority of taxpayers across every income group would experience tax cuts. In fact, it made clear that middle-income groups would experience the largest percentage of tax cuts. Even looking at the Liberal Tax Policy Center's analysis of the bill, the tax relief for middle class is unmistakable. Their analysis found that more than 80% would experience tax cuts averaging more than $2,100. In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we made good our commitment to fix our broken tax code. It makes filing simpler, provides middle-income tax cuts, and reinvigorates our economy through pro-growth business tax reforms. The positive signs of the tax cuts began almost immediately, with companies announcing bonuses, pay raises, higher retirement contributions, new hiring, increased investments as a result of the law. To date, the list of such companies has climbed to over 600, with more than 4 million employees benefiting. This has included a number of businesses in my state of Iowa. They have ranged from the small, like the Anfinson Farm Store, which has invested back into its employees in the form of $1,000 bonuses and a 5% increase in wages, to the very large, like Wells Fargo, which has raised its base wage from $13.50 to $15 per hour, benefiting more than 1,300 employees. Higher wages and bonuses are not the only way that taxpayers are benefiting from the historic tax relief. Taxpayers across the country are seeing the benefits in the form of lower electric, gas, and water bills. Nationally, utility customers have experienced more than $3 billion in savings thanks to lower utility rates as a result of tax cuts. In my state of Iowa, Alliant Energy estimated its customers' savings to be between $18 and $0.6 million to $19.6 million for electric and $500,000 to $3 and $0.7 million for gas. Mid-American Energy estimated between $90 million and $112 million in customer savings, and Iowa American Water Company estimated customer savings of between $1.5 and $1.8 million. The hundreds of businesses, as well as utility companies announcements, was only the beginning of the positive news for American taxpayers. In February, taxpayers began seeing the effects of tax reform directly in their paychecks as less was taken out of their pay by the IRS. In all, about 90% of taxpayers are seeing less withheld from their paychecks as a result of the law. With it becoming evident that the Tax Cuts and the Jobs Act was delivering meaningful benefits to working families, our Democratic colleagues were in search for new talking points on the law, considering the fact that their old talking points weren't working. They could no longer, with a straight face, then argue tax cuts were really tax increases. Instead, they want hardworking Americans to believe that an extra $50 a week in their paycheck or a $1,000 bonus is what they call crumbs. With all due respect to my colleagues who believe that this is true, you don't have a doggone clue what it's like in the real world where people live to work or have to work for a living. That $1,000 bonus means a lot for a father or mother whose children need new school clothes, or has a car that could use some repairs, or simply wants to take the family for a vacation. For a family on a tight budget, every additional dollar in a paycheck really counts. It means an additional dollar that can be put away for unexpected emergencies, or for a child's college savings, or maybe even for their own retirement. As important as the immediate middle income tax benefits afforded by the law are, the benefits that will accrue to everybody in this country as a result of the long-term pro-growth effects of the bill are as important, if maybe not more important. Thanks to this historic tax measure, as well as regulatory relief, Congress and the administration have declared America is open for business. When Congress delivers historic tax cuts, and particularly regulatory rollbacks, the American people enjoy the sweet taste of prosperity. That's how the cookie crumbles. Despite critics in this town calling the tax cuts crumbs, I'd invite them to chew on a few facts. National employment has fallen to 3.8%, the lowest since April 2000. Wages have risen at the fastest pace since the end of the recession. For the first time on record, the number of job openings has exceeded the number of job seekers. U.S. manufacturers report a historically high investment in hiring numbers. 86% report they intend to increase investment. 77% report they plan to increase hiring. Small business confidence is at record highs. Consumer confidence has reached its highest level in 18 years. All of this good economic news towards higher economic growth moving forward. This is key to sustainable long-term wage growth, which is the most powerful anti-poverty measure that there is. This should be welcome news to all after the years of stagnant wage growth during the Obama years. And with all of this positive news, Democrats have been searching for a talking point that they will take hold of. They're looking for a big distraction from the prosperity that results from this tax bill. Towards that end, they have lambasted corporate stock buybacks. Their hope is the American public will disregard all the positive signs they have seen in their paychecks and the economy generally, and be outraged by the benefits accruing to stockholders. More class warfare on their part versus the compassion and social justice which this tax reform brings about. It's a play out of their old playbook, in other words. When all else fails, engage in the historic rhetoric of class warfare. But I have news for some of my Democratic colleagues. That dog no longer hunts either. Millions of middle-class Americans own stock, if not directly, through their 401k or pension plan. According to the Tax Policy Center, 37% of the stock is held in retirement accounts. Thus, the idea of stock buybacks are boon only to corporate fat cats is hogwash. It's a boon to the millions of middle-class Americans who are longing for secure and comfortable retirements. Moreover, the Democrats' concerns with stock buybacks demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of economics. Stock buybacks are fully consistent with one of the main objectives of tax reform. That is, promoting economic growth through capital formation that makes workers more productive, which in turn leads to increased wages. When a company repurchases stock, that money's not stuffed into a mattress. It frees up dollars that can be reinvested in a growing economy or maybe a new startup small business. This in turn promotes the type of business expansion and capital investment necessary to grow our economy, boost productivity, and increase wages over the long term. Although the economic landscape looks more promising than ever, there's more work to do. Those of us from Iowa are particularly focused on trade agreements and renewable energy policies that impact our home states. So I hope, overall, our colleagues across the aisle will finally put an end to their tired attacks on the tax bill and begin working with us to promote further economic growth that's already started at a high level as a result of this tax bill. I yield the floor.